With Sea of Thieves Season 8 roughly 4 weeks away, now would be a good time to share with you what features it needs to slap. If you live under a Tri-Rock Isle, Season 8 is described as an on-demand PvP update for the game, something many fans have been clamouring for since Arena's removal, and even then, arguably before that. Two things we have confirmed already is that it's opt-in and opt-out, and that it isn't a separate mode like Arena, but implemented as part of the Adventure sandbox. And that's about what we know so far. So without further ado, let's talk about the features Season 8 needs to hit hard. With the delay of Season 7 due to captaincy requiring additional polish and the subsequent release being maybe the buggiest content we've had, it really has dampened people's opinions on it. I see many people complain about Season 7's bugs, where many of the features were broken up until recently, and others that simply allowed for gold farming without much risk. Season 8 needs to be a polished experience at launch. I'm certainly not expecting a completely bug-free update, as that's pretty much impossible, but the bugs that do arise need to be nipped in the bud swiftly. On top of this needs to be maintained. One of Arena's issues was that Rare never fixed some of the more frustrating things, and if they did, it would take a long time. The chest beacon, the kegs appearing on forts, and the sirens were points of frustration for many Arena fans. Sea of Thieves is very unlikely to ever have a break in content updates to patch major bugs. It simply doesn't attract players. On the other hand, from what I can work out, Season 8 has been in development for longer than any other season, aside from the Pirate's Life Tall Tales. The big problem with Sea of Thieves, or at least recently, is that the progression system has felt strained and left behind when it comes to releasing content. Sea of Thieves is entirely progressed via cosmetics only, not upgrades or weapons like most other games. It's often felt that when seasons drop, cosmetics are the absolute lowest point on the priority of their budget, or at least earnable ones. The Emporium hasn't missed an update since May 2020. I'll tell you what has though, the in-game shops, several times. Captaincy brought a decent drop of trinkets and captaincy cosmetics, despite some sets pictured in the trailer being completely absent from the game. Something that was awesome about Arena was that it received a refresh of rewards after it launched with commendations to boot too, and they took time to earn. Season 7 introduced a milestone system and it saw complaints that it was too grindy. I think the issue lied with the fact that the milestones offered no unique challenges or goals outside of what we've been doing for the last 4 years. Season 8 needs to have a wealth of commendations that offer unique challenges, but also some that just reward you for PvP, which technically hasn't existed outside of the Emissary flag commendations for the Reaper's Bones, or the handful of stolen commendations. On top of this, if they're going to be adding the new milestones, they need to make sure these are for the actual PvP and can't be cheesed. Related to this, Rare absolutely shouldn't add milestones that encourage things like spawn camping. A good workaround could be capping on how many points you get for killing unique pirates, or limiting it to that server. Another thing Rare needs to do is constantly add rewards to the mode to ensure people don't earn everything and then return to grinding other commendations, thus making the opt-in section have a smaller pool of participants. In terms of Arena, only the hardcore Arena fans would stick around after all the cosmetics were unlocked and the grinders would just return to Adventure. I really do hope there's a large pool of rewards on day one and not just a handful which can be earned really quickly. And very importantly, and I'll elaborate more shortly, they need to show you're not to be fucked with in PvP. To sound like a broken record, evergreen content is the best thing to add to this game. The Emissary system is case in point of that. It's still a staple part of the servers to this day. The rewards get updated every season. Well, I would argue this needs to be every other month, as we've only had 2 this year, but that's besides the point. The reward is always evergreen, with gold being a constant reward for raising an Emissary flag. Season 8 needs to be lucrative when it comes to gold. But something I think would be incredibly awesome for engagement is the potential of leaderboards to exist. Instead of just having the commendations and milestones, imagine if we can get an emissary like Ledger, where you could earn rewards each month for engaging in the content. In the same way you have to get into different percentiles to earn certain rewards, bring out a new item for players to grind towards. This could be based off of wins or ships sunk, rather than the emissary value. Whatever Season 8's progression and rewards look like, the update needs to hit the ground running to incentivize people to take part a year, 2 years, or even more beyond that initial drop. Otherwise, it will end up forgotten when the newer content drops next year. So what do I mean by an actual PvP update? Well, I think outside of Arena, there's always been a way to cheese progression systems or even never engage in PvP. The rise of the Reaper Runner is the direct result of this. The Reaper's Bones has been disgraced by these individuals, where they were always intended to be a PvP faction in Adventure. They were designed to go toe-to-toe with other Reapers or hunt the emissaries of the other trading companies. But now, they're the world event / voyage grind faction. Simply throw up a Reaper emissary and watch the gold roll in. If someone sinks you while you're flying a Reaper emissary flag, they're toxic, and you should be left alone to grind the easy money faction. It's too late to save the Reaper's bones from the fate it succumbed to. Flameheart wept. But with Season 8, it's time to right the wrongs of the past. You should not be able to earn any rewards from PvE, or at least you should have to opt into Season 8's content to progress. There are no earnable cosmetics anymore that say, hey, don't fuck with us, and the ones that do tend not to be acquirable anymore. When Season 8 drops, I want to see certain ships and realise that we're going to have a fight on our hands. None of the DA weenie brigs that flee as soon as they know you're not a day one whelp ripe for plunder. Sea of Thieves isn't solely a PvP game, but it's certainly not a PvE game. Having all the rewards barring a handful being tied to grinding fights with simple AI isn't the point of the game. This part is absolutely paramount to win people over and get people to opt into Season 8's content. I've covered this more in depth along with the likes of Blurbs and Fuzzy Bond, but the growing sentiment and anxiety from solely PvE fans needs to be tackled by Rare. The game before and around launch was always described as a shared world, where anything can go right or wrong when you interact with other players. It's part of the game, it's not personal, it's not toxic or griefing. When they do that deep dive, it needs to have people like Joni and Mike Chapman circle back to those roots and remind people how this game was designed. The best case scenario is that people opt into the content, get a taste for blood, some practice in, and ultimately moves more people into the camp that I reside in, as many of you do in the comments too. Rare needs to hammer home the point and show off sportsman-like moments in PvP. Show the average and new players it's not just some toxic sweats who spawn camp day one noobs. And for those who are like that, just give people a GG and be nice. The more people you're at to, the less people we have to steal from, or hell, get sunk by in the future. It's a community and marketing effort with this one. Don't repeat the same mistakes of Arena's subgroup that got comms turned off. Anyways, that does it for this video. Thanks for watching. What do you think Season 8 needs to go hard? Let me know down in the comments. And insiders who can't go 5 minutes without breaking the NDA, shut the fuck up. My mum could get into insiders and she still thinks the only gaming console is a PlayStation. Thanks again for watching, and as always, fulfill the prophecy.